You're listening to Joe Dalton on Dublin South FM, Crossing the Rubicon.
And welcome, folks, to another Tuesday. Yes, it's the Joe Dalton Show on Dublin South FM. And I have a guest on today all the way from America. Yes, America. Like most of my guests are from America. Mel K, she's been online, especially on YouTube, very vocal, speaking out about what's going on in the world. And especially, she's done an awful lot of research on the UN. As you know, the UN was started in 1945 after World War II. Today, Mel is going to talk to us about the dark side of the UN. So, Mel, welcome to Dublin. Welcome to Dublin.
Thank you. It's so exciting to be in Dublin while I'm still in Manhattan, New York. You guys are locked down still. We're starting to get a little bit of our freedom back, but so happy to be here. I'm a huge fan of Ireland and the Irish people, and it's a true honor to be on your show.
Yes, yeah. Look, it's, there's a big connection between ourselves and the States. I always feel that Ireland is a state in America. As you know, that the majority of people went over to America and created businesses, helped build the White House, develop and designed a lot of stuff. So 70 million people left this, there's 70 million Irish around the world. 35 million are based in America. So usually anyone you meet, some part of them is either American or Italian. Depends.
Yes, and I'm Italian. and most of my friends here are Irish and Italian and everything like that. But there's a big reverence here for Ireland also because there's so much innovation in Ireland and in all facets, tech and bio and medical and all of that. And I think that over the last 10 years, there's been a real interest in what's going on in Ireland more than I had seen before that. Yeah. And you guys are on a similar journey to us right now. We are all trying to figure out where our sovereignty went.
What the hell is going on it?
Yeah.
Tell me this, Mel, where did this all start? Let's call it you're a YouTube influencer. I hate those words, but
I know. Well, actually, now I keep getting suspended because I do a lot of work on the human and child trafficking ring that I believe fuels a lot of the elite cabal's business. And it's not just trafficking of children and that, it's also guns and drugs and all of that. But people don't like to believe that that's true. They think it's a conspiracy theory, and it's absolutely not. And so YouTube doesn't like you talking about that too much. So I fight back and forth with them. But I have my own channel now, the melkshow.com, and I have BitChute and I have Rumble and Clout Hub, and we'll keep working with YouTube. But the truth about that is I believe that big tech has overplayed their hand, and the censorship has been, I think, is backfiring on big tech and on the media. The level of censorship and what's being censored is becoming more and more obvious and helping to wake people up, because in our country, we once really valued the First Amendment, but it's been completely torn apart over the last couple of years. So
I agree.
Yeah.
I did a show on censorship a couple of weeks ago, and I posted it then up on Twitter, and they suspended me.
Right. They censored you for talking about censorship.
Yeah,
that's the way it goes.
That's the way it goes.
But they censor me for talking about, because I'm involved with a movie about international child trafficking, and they censored me, yet they have child stuff on there. You can find anything you want on there of children, yet they're getting rid of people that are calling attention to it. So, that's how it is.
It is. It's mad. Like over here now, there's a platform after being created that is like Facebook, and it's air free. and that's EIRE for air, as in Ireland, free.social.
Great.
And people who are looking to connect to that and not to be fearful of censorship or getting bombarded by ads are signing up to that. So it's a new platform out of it.
Right.
But where did your investigative journalism start? And just to give people a sort of a backstory of how you fell in love and got very passionate in what you do.
Yeah, well, I went to NYU, and when I was very young, I had a class that really changed my life, and I focused on this woman in that class. This woman, Hannah Arendt. She wrote The Origins of Totalitarianism and Eichmann in Jerusalem, The Banality of Evil. And I was in film school, and I'm a screenwriter. So not only did I learn about the origins of Stalin and Hitler and Mao and totalitarianism, and not just the political aspects, but the psychological and the philosophical underpinnings. But also, I wrote a screenplay about this woman. And her book, Eichmann in Jerusalem, The Banality of Evil, was about the only Nazi trial that was held in Israel. And she covered it for the New Yorker magazine in the 60s. And she's a Jew. She escaped the Holocaust, the camps. She's from Germany, jumped to France, and then eventually came to America and became a big writer and professor here. Well, when she covered the trial, she saw it, a lot of it, as a show trial. She was very skeptical of what was going on in Israel, and she didn't hold back about calling out things that she saw as, things that maybe people didn't want her to say, like that there were rabbis, unfortunately, that gave over the lists of their congregants, trying to help or save themselves. And in the end, of course, they also went to the camps. But there was just a lot of stuff that she put out there that the powers that be, the World Jewish Congress run by the Bronfmans and all these people, they didn't want out there. And she basically was excommunicated from being a Jew in Israel. And it's a crazy story. And she came up with this concept of the banality of evil, which was explained to me by people that have really worked with her and knew her and all of that while I was researching for the movie. It's basically what we're dealing with now. It's people exercising free will. Eichmann was the architect of the trains that went from all over Europe to the concentration camps. And his defense was that he was following orders, that he wasn't doing anything wrong, that what he was doing was following orders, and that how could you that was his job. He might have sent millions of people to their death knowingly, but how could you fault him? He was, So anyway, so I wrote that. And after that script, I had done so much research on it that I started doing my own work on evil. Basically, how evil manifests. And the concept of hers is that most people, while committing evil, don't think at all. They're not, there are serial killers and people like that. But the parallel I see with where we are now is the concept of following orders. And that all because you're a cop or a military man or anything like that with authority, or a politician, the concept that you don't have free will to choose what is right and wrong is a lie. You do have free will, and everyone does. And this is where I found my calling. So I'm a historical screenwriter, and then I moved after I made a couple movies. I moved to LA when I was younger, and I worked in Hollywood quite a bit for about 15 years. And I know, please, you have no idea. And I saw as close as you get to the very, 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 very top. I've been there. And my parents live in Palm Beach, Florida. So when I started hearing about the Epstein case, that's when I said, I got to go. I got to talk about this. I got to go online, because I happen to have known a lot of the people not only involved, I haven't not just know them, I've worked with people that were on Epstein Island. I saw what they were doing, whitewashing the truth about it. And I connected it all back to the whole banality of evil, that these people go about their day-to-day lives, but what they were doing on that island is pure evil. And that Netflix is making a movie saying it's about teenage girls being trafficked. That's the least of what was going on there. And I'd done some research on the Black Forest and some stuff also in Ireland and in England, and this satanic ritual abuse, and also Bohemian Grove. It's a web, and it's all connected worldwide. And I started speaking out about what I knew about what was going on in Epstein Island, what was going on in West Hollywood and Hollywood in general. About 15 years ago, not that it wasn't always there, it was always there, the satanic and pedophilia and truly secret society type mentality going on in Hollywood forever.
It's interesting that you say, I think Hollywood is done. I think there's a lot coming out about what's going on, and some people may be listening to this show that mightn't be aware, but Hollywood is finished, really and truly. And I think even and the Globe and Goes, Richard Gervais was basically saying to them, and everyone was laughing. And when you look back now of what we know about Hollywood and what he was saying, sort of matches up the dots on it.
Oh yeah,
and it's all intertwined, and it's
oh yeah,
it can be very confusing, and it can be very depressing as well.
Yeah,
and it's that elephant in the room.
Right.
But one of the pieces that you focused on as well is the UN. And the UN is, we know it as a peacekeeping organization. We know that it comes into, around the world. I know myself that I've been in countries in a previous job where the UN were there. I even had my UN hat as a souvenir and driving around in UN trucks. But you're saying that there's a dark side to it as well. So
yeah,
let's start there.
Everything that I'm talking about, honestly, connects to that. So all the way back to my beginnings. So what I realized is that the same cabal that runs the central bank and runs Hollywood and runs basically were the same people that were involved in World War II and raising Hitler to his status, because he was a front man, Hitler.
Yeah,
there were people above him. Well, those same people are the people who created the UN. It is my understanding that what really happened, and it all goes back to this concept of good and evil. And what really happened is the Rockefeller family, who are at the very top of the bloodlines. They're the bloodlines, and anyone can look that up. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's true. There are 12 bloodlines that are all connected. They are all involved in the central bank, and that is based in Switzerland and owns all of our central banks, including the City of London, which is defunct now, I believe, and the Fed in America, and every central bank. Basically, the head of that snake is the Rothschild family, but there is a family above them, the Paysours, which is really the French monarchy. But what basically happened is, in my research and opinion, is they knew that they were going to lose, at least when there was a certain point when Hitler and all of them, all the Nazis and all involved, knew that it was coming to an end. And what my understanding is, there was something called Operation Paperclip.
Yeah.
And it was and anyone can look that up. There's some really good information out there about it. And what happened was, a lot of the Nazis that we believe were hung or committed suicide or any of that, the ones that weren't at Nuremberg or somewhere, actually were escaped. And they took a giant amount of the most powerful Nazis and moved them into America and into South America. And at that time, the Rockefeller family donated a huge piece of land that I actually live a few blocks from, the United Nations, on the east side of New York, to the United Nations. And that was going to be the one world government. These people believe, and this is exactly, it was the same goal of Hitler and the Third Reich. So you could say it was the Fourth Reich. So they came here and they decided to create the United Nations. But the underlying theme of the United Nations is a one world government that they never hid. They've always talked about it. The philosophical foundation of the United Nations is called the Lucis Trust. It used to be called the Lucifer Trust. They still to this day have a meditation room there called the Lucis Trust Meditation Room. The Lucis Trust, Lucifer Trust, is the philosophical underpinnings of the one world order, the one world government. There were people involved that are still alive, including the monarchy in England, but also Henry Kissinger, the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, the Astors, the Gates family. A lot of these people were involved then at Thatcher and are still involved now. And it's passed down through the generations. But basically, they have this woman, Alice Bailey, who was the philosopher behind the entire UN's mission and mission statement. She also has the Wellcome Trust. And you can look them all up on the UN website. They don't hide this. But when you dig a little deeper, you'll find that Alice Bailey's mentor was this woman, Blavatsky, who was Hitler's mentor. And it's all part of an occult Luciferian satanic belief that is very anti-God. It puts the power of the people into basically Satan, but into the people. And the UN, if you go around the UN and you look into it, the one thing missing at the UN is God. And so if you follow the lines of the UN, you're going to see over the years, UNESCO, a lot of their peacekeeping missions, you're going to find a lot of demonic symbolism, a lot of Luciferian stuff, and sadly, a lot of human trafficking, a lot of their missions, their humanitarian missions are wrought with criminal enterprises all over the world. And it's never changed. They're behind all the migration, immigration, and basically they go into countries, the UN, and for the one world government is my belief. It is still financed to this day by the Bank of International Settlements, which is the central bank cabal. Bank of International Settlements in Switzerland still runs all the money on this planet. They own everything, basically everything. And a lot of people in America don't realize that our Fed is a private bank. The IRS is private.
I think everyone is realizing, as you look into it, everything is a corporation,
right?
And all the different countries with and all. But there's two things I just want to. People will probably be listening to this and going, "Who's this crazy person that's on?" So talking about it. There's a New Yorker anyway, so we know you New Yorkers are crazy. So
I know.
So that's a lot to take in. That's an awful lot to take in. Now, I've done some research online and I've seen some of the names that you've mentioned, and I've delved into the websites, and I know then there's the meditation room in the UN as well, and people have said, there's some writing on some stone. I've tried to find the writing on that stone, like as in images in that room on the stone, and couldn't find them anywhere online. And when you're saying that everything within the UN, like it's taken God out of it, and you're right in that for what we're finding as well, because there's a divide going on in the world at the moment, and it's state over God, and they want to take God sovereignty out of existence, so everybody listens to the state. Right. It's to do then, just jumping offside here for a sec. And that's to do with, the quantum financial systems that's coming in. We're talking about what's going on with the CCP and how that's been running in China for the last 10 years. And they're implementing this then in Europe, the EU, which we will believe is connected to the UN. But when you went into doing all this research, so a lot of people, as I say, are going, what the hell is going on here? Who's this person? Right. Elaborate on your findings. So, some people then can sort of check the dots and then jump onto your own website and research and going on to your, because I have to admit, you've some great interviews out there. I've told a few people that I was speaking to and they went, oh, I love Mel K. And it says everybody loves Mel K. Everybody loves Mel.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot because, this is stuff people don't want you to know. And I do a lot of digging into there's an FBI vault that anyone can go to, FBIvault.gov, the CIA vault. There's a lot of bizarre places you can find information that people don't really look into. But there's also, for me, it all started with the bloodlines. And that would be at the top is the Rothschilds and then the Rockefellers. But included in that are people from my country, but also, the Windsors, obviously. But my real thing was I really started researching the Rockefeller family of Standard Oil and the Rockefeller Institute, and the Rockefeller family put up all the money for the UN. And if you trace the Rockefeller family and David Rockefeller and all of them, you're going to, at some point, back into Bilderberg and Davos and the International Monetary Fund and World Economic Forum and the UN. And what you start to realize is at the very top of all of these things are the same people. And you wonder, God, this concentration of power is so unbelievable, because the Rockefellers also dominated big pharma. They dominated medicine. They dominated basically all of oil, and trains and everything. And what I found is that this was all very coordinated through these bloodline families. They intermarry within these families. And from my research, what happened in the beginning is the French monarchy, when it fell, the heir and others came to North Carolina. And they all started building the railroads and building the infrastructure. And then they owned it all, and they would lease them out. And all of this money goes back to the same group of very powerful people that still to this day control everything. So for me, it started looking into the Rockefellers, then the Rockefeller Institute, then what the Rockefellers have bought and paid for, and then their influence on government. So here we have something called the Council of Foreign Relations. There's a lot of people that believe that the Council of Foreign Relations is the shadow government of the United States. They have a counterpart in England, in the UK. And I think it's the International Foreign Relations, but they also have the Pilgrims and the Committee of 300. And again, when you look at all these different groups and you look at who's involved, it's all the same people. It's all the same last names we know. These also happen to be the people that many of them were involved in the Titanic. Many of them were involved in Jekyll Island and the establishment of the Federal Bank. And many of them, I don't know if your listeners know, but these same people, really the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers are both, they're in tandem. But the Rothschilds, after our war here, after the Civil War, America was broke and they needed to rebuild. And this is how our country got hijacked. Our country, I'm sure every country can trace back to the same people, because I believe, are all fighting the same enemy now. But and what happened was the Rothschilds wouldn't lend America money. They were running the City of London, which is not London. That's the bank of the monarchy. It's called the City of London, just like DC is not anything. It's also owned by the monarchy and the Vatican. All three are in cahoots. But basically, the deal was that they would loan America money. Loan is the key word. And if they established a corporation of the District of Columbia, which is Washington, D.C., and in exchange for that loan, our country would pay interest on that loan until we paid it off. Well, to this day, we've not even hit the loan. We're still, all of our taxpayer dollars go to the interest still. And every year since 1871, we've paid 20% of U.S. tax dollars back to the monarchy, the City of London.
Well, do you want to hear something?
Yeah.
Do you want to hear something shocking as well?
Yeah.
Ireland is a neutral country, right? Always have been. But when there was a deal striked up in the early 1900s, we took on the debt for World War One and all the pensions for World War One, and we're probably still paying that today. And people are probably going, "No, that's rubbish." But it's under an act which is the Consolidated Fund Act. And if people go onto the website and to the Irish government website and look at that, they'll see that act, and it's hidden in there. You're talking about, you're talking about, the states there. But, even here where our government runs its business is in Leinster House. Leinster House is owned by the Duke of Leinster, and the government, there's a rent on it, and I've asked someone, is that building still the same as the British Embassy, British land? And they're gonna look into that for us. But it's all bonkers. It's completely bonkers.
You're listening to Joe Dalton on Dublin South FM. Crossing the Rubicon.
Ours is the Act of 1871, which established the Corporation of the United States of America, which is the parcel of land that's 10 by 10 in the District of Columbia that was donated from Maryland and Virginia. And people are going to be shocked to find out, and I believe they will soon, that the District of Columbia not only is a corporation, but it's a corporation owned jointly by the Vatican and the City of London. And who's been running the City of London, which is a bank? It's not this. It's very deceptive. But the City of London is the bank of the monarchy. It's been the Rothschilds running it from the very beginning.
Well, it's the royal family. It's the royal family who, if you look at our history here, it goes back to King George. Did a bit of skullduggery, cloak and dagger stuff, and so. It's the royal family, City of London, but the bank then is the Vatican, and again, people are probably listening to this and going, what the hell are these people babbling about? But what I found to unravel all this was I was listening to people, and I noticed that online, I think I spent, being in lockdown, I woke up early last year. I've always been spiritually connected, but I sort of woke up early last year.
Right.
And I was listening to people, and, my problem was, say, you would say something, and then someone else online would say what you said, but they would report it as in my research. And I go, hang on, they're just repeating what someone else is saying.
I know.
So I kind of went, okay, and I says, right, I always believe, the truth. I always believe, I tell people all the time to be a lateral thinker. Don't be a core thinker, be a lateral thinker.
Yeah.
So I picked a point. So you said something or someone, and I'd write it down, and then I'd look online. And I wouldn't look at line as Joe Dalton website or Mel K's website or Billy Bob's website. I'd go and see if I could find it in government sites and you'd pick up these little pieces of thread and you pull them and you kind of go, that's a bit odd. That's a bit weird. That's it. And
it's connecting the dots, and it's unbelievable. It's
connecting the dots, and
it's unbelievable.
And no one believes a lot of it. And the reason why they don't, because they're not willing to believe it. 2, they're not willing to put in the time to do the research. And 3, they're believing what they're being told through a history. It's like I spoke to Mark Devlin. I don't know if you know Mark Devlin.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And
I know who he is. Yeah.
Yeah, and we were speaking about stuff like this as well. And Mark he's writing another book, and he's doing some stuff on some of our popular musical gurus over here, like U2 and stuff. And he's saying, he says he doing the research, he was pulling up the stuff. So it's completely mad. But if someone is listening to this and doubt, they need to just start looking. Yeah.
Yeah. There's also something to it that is very spiritual. This is not these people in these bloodlines. Fritz Springmeier wrote a book. There's also Campbell, who wrote who's that other guy? There's another great guy. There's a whole bunch of people that have, sadly, a lot of them have have had horrible experiences or were, oddly enough, met a demise that you wouldn't believe. But the sad truth is that there are 12 bloodline families that believe in something that most people that believe in God and country and freedom do not believe. And that is, and they do this. People don't want to believe in evil is the biggest problem.
No, yeah.
In my opinion.
I don't think people want to. I think everybody, it's like I say to people, if you think of someone in Iraq or someone in Afghanistan, they're the same as you. They just want to live their lives. They just want to get on, do stuff. People down the road, doesn't matter the color of their skin, what nationality they are, where they are from, in the world. None of them matter because I believe we are all one, okay? But they just want a peaceful life. They just want to be with their kids.
Right.
And other people are saying, oh, you hate them and they hate you. And people don't take everybody as evil. But there are evil people out there. And the evil people, in my opinion, are the dictators of the world today. Used to be Hitler and Mussolini and all these. Right. Now there is people who are in big tech organizations who have more money than certain governments and have power. And then you have people who were in governments who have that power as well, and connecting them together. And this whole, I haven't even done a program yet on the Great Reset, and I haven't done it on Davos. But as I'm looking into it, I'm going, people need to wake up. People really need to wake up, because the freedom that I have today and the freedom that you have, Mel, the next generation won't. And they don't give a shit about you or me. It's indoctrinating our children.
Right. Well, again, the one thing that you can connect there is this debt slavery, money magic. It is real. It is part of what they believe. And it is this cabal. And what they control is basically all of the money on this planet. If you scrape everything away, even the oligarchs and the big tech guys, they're still above them. And you have to also realize that they give these positions of power to specific people. These secret societies aren't these Skull and Bones and some of the other ones, the Pilgrims, some of these other ones, because these guys, Mark Zuckerberg is a Rockefeller. He didn't create Facebook. The whole story we've been told about Facebook isn't true. It was created by DARPA to basically help the one world government. But also, second, Gates too is a bloodline.
Yeah, his father
Hillary Clinton is a bloodline.
Yeah, like everyone thinks Gates was set up in his basement. But if you look at his family tree, his father was heavily involved. I think his father was heavily involved in politics and
in Bilderberg. He created Planned Parenthood, which was eugenics. But again, at the very top, this is about debt slavery. It is about enslaving every country, all of the countries, by this one bank of international settlements that also took all the money from Japan and from Germany during the Holocaust, all of that. They have been hoarding cash and gold for hundreds of years. And a lot of that was stashed under the Vatican. I believe all this is coming out soon. People are soon going, DC and the City of London and the Vatican, I believe all have been dealt with. And right now we're watching a slow reveal, way too slow for me. But all of our countries have been stolen from and looted from and robbed from through this fiat currency debt slavery. And like your country, my country, all of our taxpayer dollars are going right back to the same people. Our entire New York Stock Exchange, all the Type A stock is owned by these same people. And they own all the banks they control all the banks. You have to be involved in the Bank of International Settlements and then under it, the DTCC and all this stuff. And it's all connected, but it really is about keeping humanity enslaved. Because the sad truth is there's plenty of money.
There's loads of money. But let's just educate some people on this as well, right? King Henry in the 18 Henry knew that he could not go into another country as a sovereign into another country and to the sovereign people, because that that was theirs. And he knew that at the time, he knew then you couldn't take something that was sovereign. So he set up a corporation, and setting up the corporation, he then could go to another country and rape and pillage the country because there was a corporation going in to take business. That's how they did it.
That's exactly what it was. And it's their debt, slavery, money magic model. They've been doing it since Rothschild started with the monarch way long ago.
Yeah.
And they finance both sides of every war because they need war to keep the money going. But what they also do is they go in, I believe there's 187 countries. What they do is they go in and do what they did here. They go in after a war. Oftentimes you can trace the war back to them being the ones who fomented the war, like the French Revolution or the Bolshevik Revolution or any number, the Mao takeover. You go back in, you can find these same people. It's the same bloodline families that are controlling all of it. And they foment a war, and then they come in, similar to the UN, humanitarian, to rescue everyone. And it's the same players. And before you know it, they have set up a central bank to start debt slavery. They've taken all the natural resources. They've built ports. They bring in their own contractors. They get rid of the democratically elected government and pop in their guy that they can control. And next thing you know, it's just another port on their Belt and Road Initiative, which is the thing now. But it's the same thing, and it's all connected to the same players. A lot of people don't realize the UN right now, most of the top positions at the UN have CCP, Chinese nationals, running the committees. They are loyal only to the Communist Party of China. And we're wondering how China got so powerful. Well, that's how. Also, they were always part of the model. And now a lot of our countries, America right now is following the Maoist CCP model. But a lot of people don't realize that Mao was trained in Marxism, and he's connected to Skull and Bones, which will connect to all the bloodlines and secret societies. And it appears that Donald Trump and the alliance have uncovered $23 quadrillion in gold and money that belongs to we, the people of all of our countries, that these people have been sitting on in all their different central banks, and allowing us to suffer from starvation, from,
there's enough wealth in the world, and there's enough resources on this world for everyone. But we even discovered that, Guinnesses, which everyone Guinness drink, Guinness and Rothschild, and there was another guy as well, sent money up to North well before the Troubles kicked in to equip the RUC at the time up there with guns, so they could then, keep that war going, because they knew by keeping the Ireland divided, the sovereignty rights could always be held in limbo. But what you're laying out for us is that the UN, see a country, say wherever it is, go in under we're helping this country, and when they go in, they rape and pillage it, take all the resources, put in who they want in power, and then they have that. So it's like this freedom alliance going into a country under UN, helping it. But the real truth is that they're actually just lining up their own pockets for to have their own agenda in there, which makes sense. Yeah.
Because if anyone goes and looks at what we're saying and looks at the Lucis Trust and then looks at the Alice Bailey 10 rules for the one world government, and you see everything that they've been talking about, including UNESCO, the education side of the UN, and all the different groups. But if you look at the Alice Bailey 10 rules, I would have brought it if I knew we were talking about this, for the one world government, it's exactly what we're going through right now. It's very much about divide and conquer of the people within each country. So they create these, some would say the entire creation of Israel and the entire Middle East was created to have perpetual war forever to keep these people going. And the truth of the matter is that part of their one world government agenda is laid out, and they're not going to have it because the Great Reset has been stopped in its tracks, thank God. But they wanted 10 nation states, which in my country, it would have been, which is what they're doing to the border right now. It would be making South America, and Canada one nation state. And they wanted that all over. They wanted all of you guys to be the EU. And it would have been, they have a plan. It's all laid out. And then that would be ruled over by 10 people sitting at the table, the 12 bloodline families, plus 10 people, which would include it's the same people for Bilderberg and Davos.
It's all,
would
and
be
all chipped.
Yep.
And, to do with your credit rating. Like if you look at China, China was buying up stuff 20 years ago, all the yarn and everything. So this isn't a plan that was hatched out over the last 5-6 years. This is a plan that goes a generation. Like if you read the book, Infiltration from Within, from Marshall, I can't think of his second name. He wrote a book, and that is about the Vatican. And that is the plan for the last 200 years we couldn't destroy it from outside because every time we did, they got bigger. So they plan to get people inside of the Vatican 200 years ago before probably, so they could then destroy the Vatican.
Right. The Vatican's in on it because each one of these groups have their own, because they need a one world government. I mean, a one world religion. All of this stuff, if people trace this to Kazakhstan, they'll see what they've been planning, which oddly enough. But
that's mad. Just jumping and letting people know there is a city, right, that is built in white marble, right? The place is massive. It is beautiful. And there's no one there.
That's where their headquarters are supposed to be.
Yeah, that's what, you're laughing at that. People are going to go, hang on, this is a city that is, it's amazing.
And look at who visits there. Yeah.
There's no population.
Look at who visits there. The Queen of England, the Pope.
Do they?
Do you know what
it reminds me? Do you know what it reminds me of? Do you know one of these, in the height of a country's wealth, they build these huge big office blocks and hotels, apartments, and then suddenly there's a recession and it's just sitting there idle. That's what it reminds me of.
I know, it's the most bizarre thing in the world. I always tell people, look up Kazakhstan. Tell me what's going on in Astana. What is going on there? And then you'll see that the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative goes right through it.
Yeah,
not an accident.
No.
Yeah.
So tell me this. We've. So I think we could talk for hours, but unfortunately, we've only got a certain slot on the radio, time-wise. So, will you send me that document that you mentioned there, a link to it?
Oh yeah, I will.
We'll pin that up on it as well. So
and also I want to send you something else. It's called the Rockefeller Foundation put out something called Project Lockstep in 2010. You will read it and you will be like, oh my God, this is exactly what they did to us the past year with the pandemic. So this was a planned reset. It was planned for over 100 years. They just didn't know how they were going to get here. And luckily, I believe the white hats in all of our countries caught them and have turned the tide. Who the white hats are, we're not sure yet.
We're not sure. Maybe
I do
you
believe
are,
that is the case. I know. Some we are. But I think all of our countries, there's an alliance right now, an international alliance that is working together. And if you connect the dots through all the stuff going on geopolitically, you can see it. You can see who's in and who's out. But and you said you're doing a show on Great Reset. If you want me to come talk about it, I will. But the Great Reset and Agenda 2030 was the complete enslavement of humanity under the same people, under the same cabal. And the UN was going away anyway. They were going to shift to their new location in Astana.
I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's wrap it up here, okay? And
Okay.
let's come on again in a couple of weeks and we'll talk about the Great Reset. And
I would love to.
And I tell people, read, if you can find the documentation on the Great Reset and have a look at it, it'll scratch your head. It will scratch your head. Have you ever spoken to Susan Belford? She's wrote a couple of books.
No, I haven't, but I have heard of her.
Yeah, I interviewed her before Christmas, and she worked with the UN. And she's an investigator, journalist, and
What's her last name?
Belford. I'll send you a link.
Yeah, you should send me, because I believe that I've been in touch with her. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but she's full of facts.
Sounds very familiar.
Full of facts and great information on it. So look, to wrap it up, people need to just understand that it is possible, okay, that the UN was placed after World War II, as we believed, as a peacekeeping force, but it was designed to continue on the world new order,
Exactly,
and go into different countries and set up the way they wanted. And I seen an article online. I'll have to check it again. It was when I was just doing a bit of research, and there was 30,000 UN troops in certain countries under sexual trafficking on it. But I also have to say that there's an awful lot of people that work in the UN that aren't aware of this and are in the UN for very good reasons as well. We have to make sure that not everyone in the
I agree
UN
with
is
that.
corrupt.
I live right down the street from the UN. I have many, many friends in my neighborhood that literally work at the UN. I feel the way about the UN. It's the origins of the UN and what it's been used for. That's with all of our countries and everything. It's in the US. I believe also the CIA and NATO are working for the one world government, where there's but not everyone in the CIA and NATO is in on it. I just think people don't know, just like all secret societies and everything that I talk about. It's usually not till you're at the very top that you really know the plans. People would go crazy it's too hard. It would be too big. But no, there's a lot of good people in the UN that go there for the right reason. I know a couple myself in my real life. I would never say to them this, but I'm talking more about the origins and the goals, real goals. Yeah. When they're in the room, when they're in there and it's locked down and they're at the Council of Foreign Relations talking about, setting up the next Davos meeting or World Economic Forum. That's who I'm talking about. And very few people are invited into that club.
Yeah, it's a case of a certain amount of people that are very, very, very wealthy deciding the future for everyone else. And they are making those decisions, not for you and me and the greater good, but it's beneficial for how they can live their lives. And there's an agenda there that I don't think is honest.
Yeah, there's I don't know if you know about the Georgia Guidestones, and that's very similar to the Lucis Trust and the Alice Bailey document I'll send you. But a lot of it does have to do with depopulation and controlling the humanity. And a lot of this agenda, sure, some of it is conspiracy theory, but some of it is not. And that's the one thing everyone has to discern for themselves. But there's plenty of evidence that the origins of the United Nations are not what they were sold as. But if you look at there's any number of NGOs in your country, in my country, all over, they have names that sound humanitarian and, sound philanthropic and all of that. And then you scratch the surface and you find that it's the opposite, because that's the Luciferian thing they do. They present as humanitarian or an aid foundation or something like that. And then you find out that they're caught up in international child trafficking or something else, or they've pillaged the entire continent of Africa under the guise of helping. So, it's just digging into it.
History shows us 1966 in Turkey. That's when it all started.
Well, right now it looks like Turkey is trying to pull back in the reins again. So we'll see. But We can continue wherever you want because
we'll definitely get on
very intense.
It is. Mel, where can people, if they want to just jump on and have their minds blown?
Yeah. Well, I'm on themelkshow.com. I'm at BitChute, The Mel K Show, Rumble, The Mel K Show, now Clout Hub, The Mel K Show, The Mel K Show group on Telegram. And we'll be uploading all of our stuff. We're going to have a forum. We interact a lot. The new website's going to be on our own server. Anything on YouTube right now is not mine. I am debating rebuilding, but I probably won't because I don't necessarily think it's worth it at this point. I feel like big tech is in big trouble, so I'd rather create my own thing, which has been a blessing of the censorship, is you have to kind of reinvent and figure out your own path. And I go on a bunch of other shows. So if they just go to themelkshow.com and sign up for my email, they'll get my list of resources, research resources, and they'll be updated whenever we do anything cool.
Cool. Well, we will. And there's a list there. I know Telegram is very big over here at the moment. So I recommend people jump on it. Mel, thanks for coming on the show. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was awesome. Look forward to next time.
And remember, here at Dublin South FM, we're interviewing plenty of people around the world, conscious leaders, and that's why we have the Conscious Business Podcast, which is part of the Conscious Business Academy, offering purpose, profit and prosperity in your life through soulful selling, mindful marketing, conscious leadership and creative culture. If you want to reach out to me, it's joedalton.ie. You have an awesome week and take care and look after yourself.